You're doing great. You got this.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, how you doing, everybody? My name is Mimi Evans, Mia Evans, but everybody calls me Mimi. I am the owner of Mix and Mimi Mixology. I also own a company called Life Gives You Lemon, and the founder of Bad Moms Entertainment. So I am super excited. I want to thank Focus on Health and Speed Rack and the sponsors for putting this on. This has been a really interesting journey setting up this story for today, but it should be a good time. The way that I do classes, this is my second Speed Rack Academy class. So the way that I do it, I like to have a conversation. I like dialogue. So instead of me talking at you, I can see the comments, I can see my slides, and Lauren, if you see anything, feel free to throw that out. But I like to have a conversation so that this is a two-way thing. So feel free to jump in with questions, comments, and yeah, we'll go from there. So I'm going to be making three cocktails. So as I'm talking, I'm not going to bore you with my speaking. We're going to jump in and you'll see the slide that'll say cocktail time. We'll stop and make some really fun cocktails. With the cocktails that I created, I wanted something sort of simple so that you guys can make these things at home. I want you guys to give it a try. I'm going to be using Uncle Nearest 1856 and Uncle Nearest 1884, which we'll get into. All right. So the story of Nathan Green, the first recorded African American distiller. So just a little bit of background. Doing this, when I took this on, I was really excited to do it because I've been following the story for a couple of years now, and I thought it was going to be something that was going to be simple and easy. But what I found in doing this, and why I'm excited about this initiative, is there were gaps. There are a lot of gaps in the story, and it really sucks because it's almost like I can't speak to Nathan Green's character because we don't know. We have our history is the document. We don't have record of a lot of the amazing things that we've done. So we do have what's been compiled over the years by way of his descendants, by way of historians, and that's what we'll jump into today. So like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to throw those in. Next slide. So if you are not a bartender or in the bar world, here's a couple of terms you may hear me use a lot: distillation, master distiller, which is what he was, a small batch whiskey. We talked about that. So there are some things here that you may, and you guys will be able to. I'll go back if you guys need to get to the terminology and vocabulary. All right, next slide. All right, so who was Nathan Nears Green? So Nathan Nears Green was believed to be born in the 1800s, actually 1820, and they had this information by way of the census. So we don't we don't really know. I've actually seen some things that said 1840, so we really don't know. But a lot of the records, and according to the federal census, they're saying around 1820 was his birthday. What we know is, because he was a slave and born into slavery, a lot of those records, again, those gaps, we don't always have accurate information with, our ancestry. So that is the year that he was believed to be born. Also, his birthplace, Maryland. They believe he was born in Maryland. How he made his way to Lynchburg, Tennessee, no idea. And I worked tooth and nail to try to find out how he made his way from Maryland to Lynchburg, Tennessee. But we know that, probably in the midst of being sold or, things like that, that's, probably how he made his way there. But Maryland is what is believed to be his birthplace. All right, next slide. All right, so who was Nathan Nears Green? Again, I just mentioned some of the places that, the place that he was born, but he's also had footprints in Lincoln, Tennessee, Lynchburg, Tennessee, which you'll hear a lot about, Franklin County, Tennessee. Lynchburg, Tennessee is where he was known. He was very, very popular in that town. He was a slave, or at least they don't know if he was born into slavery, but he was at some point a slave. He was eventually emancipated, but he, during his time with his connection with Jack Daniels, which we'll get into, he was enslaved. And this picture here, this is a picture of the day in Corn Farm, which we're going to talk about soon. Next slide. So again, I said that one of the frustrating things in doing this was that I don't, know anything about his character. But the good thing is, by way of passing down information about him and through his descendants, we were yes, 9 children. We were able to get a little bit of information about him. So he was a husband. He was a husband to a lady named Harriet Luke Black, which Harriet Luke Green is which turned into, which her maiden name changed. They were estimated to be married in 1860, which is super conflicting when you see stories that he was born in 1860. But again, by way of census, this is what we have, 1860. According to his descendants, he liked to play the fiddle. He was a fiddler, and that was known because he passed that down to his son. And of course, from there, then you have the grandkids, great grandkids that talked about it. And so, it said that he was very entertaining and liked to play the fiddle. And yes, 9 children. He was a father of 9. He and Harriet had 9 children, 7 sons, 2 daughters. I've seen something that said 11, but most of the records show that he had 9 children. And big families weren't, they weren't like something that was out of the ordinary during this time. During my grandma's time, my grandma actually had 11 brothers and sisters, 2 that died. So it was 13 originally, 2 died when they were younger. So big families, large families, this was just something that just wasn't out of the ordinary. So yeah, 9 children. All right, next slide. Okay, so what was Nathan Nearest reign known as? So the Nearest comes in because that was like his name that was beloved to everybody. He was known as Uncle Nearest. Jack also had a nickname, which we'll talk about, but he was known as Uncle Nearest. So that's where we got that Nathan Nearest reign. And he is the godfather of Tennessee whiskey. So the Tennessee whiskey that we know today, that we love, that we enjoy, this is due to his contributions, due to some of the methods that he brought here, or some of the methods that he taught, by way of his ancestors, and he taught to Jack Daniels. So he was a master distiller to Jack Daniels, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a second. Lauren, can you look at the next slide? Just the late business side. Oh, time for cocktail. Sorry. So I jumped a little ahead of myself. So before I get to the cocktail, what I'm going to do now, I'm missing the slide here, or maybe it's out of place, but a lot of the methods or his methodology in making or distilling alcohol were West African traditions. So West African countries, and a lot of West African countries, their way of like cleaning their food, their water, they use what's called the sugar maple charcoal filtering, and that's what he brought here. So what I want to do for my first cocktail, I want to make something fun. This is a really heavy topic, but I'm a fun person, so I wanted to make something fun. So I wanted to incorporate a lot of those fruits that you'll see in, a lot of West African countries, fruits that are, relative to those countries. That's what you're going to see with a lot of the cocktails that I'm doing. I'm going to pull from a lot of the inspiration from what we're going to be talking about. So I'm going to jump into this. This is called, and Lauren, whoa, am I back on the big screen? Because I can't.
Yeah, you're on the big screen. I got you, girl.
Okay, all right. So I'm back on the big screen. So this is called Welcome Home. And let's see if I can get this open, because I haven't opened any of my bottles. So pull that name again, just thinking, going back home, or just sort of paying homage to West African countries. And always struggle opening bottles. So I'm going to use Uncle Nearest 1856 for this. And I'm going to make this in a cute little papaya cup. So think about when you go on vacation and you get those pretty pineapple cups, and they're super fun and fruity. So this is going to be something like that. Instead, I used a papaya cup. So I just took a papaya and I poured it because it also has some papaya nectar and things like that going into it. So this is going to be a really fruity cocktail, really fun. I also wanted to do this because oftentimes, my friends, mostly the clients that I've had, there's a common misconception that bourbon can't be fruity and fun. I've been told that people don't like bourbon, or hey, Mimi, I don't like bourbon because I don't think it's something that I can do fun things with, and it is. We can do more than just the old fashioned and those drinks that are common to bourbon. So for this, it's going to be nice and fruity, and this is my lane because I like things that are fruity and sweet. So it's going to be served on ice. I'm going to do 1.5 ounces of my 1856. And 1/2 ounce of, this is my own little mix here, and you can make this really easily at home. This is a banana spice simple syrup. And instead of using your typical sugar, just your regular simple syrup, actually use brown sugar. And this has a really, really fun, spicy taste. You actually don't need too much because it's really, really sweet. So all I did was boil down my bananas. I added a few spices. You can add spices to your taste. I added a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of cloves, but you can, again, spice to your taste. So I'm only going to do 1/4 of this. You don't need a lot of the simple for this. And here I have my juices. I have spent some time juicing a couple of different fruits. So I have mango, pineapple, guava, and a little bit of orange. I wanted a little citrus, so a little bit of orange. So all these juices, no guava, that's my next drink, no guava. Mango, pineapple, orange, all juiced in together. And I'm gonna do 2 full ounces of that. And I'm gonna add it to ice. And as I'm mixing, Lauren, did I miss any questions or anything like that? Any comments about the first part?
No, you're good. Everyone's just like drooling over the fact that you're making a bourbon tropical drink. It sounds amazing.
Say that again, Lauren. You said it
sounds amazing. Everyone's just drooling over the fact that you're making a bourbon tropical drink.
Yeah, I wanted to do that. These are, like I said, I like anything that's fruity and fun. And just to, sort of switch it up and go against the norm, especially with bourbon, for people who don't typically like bourbon. This is, I think, a fun way to introduce them to that. That's what we got going here. All right, absolutely. So I just my pineapple, my papaya cup. And stain that in. And I'm still gonna throw my cool little pineapple leaves. I know you probably see this garnish all the time, but I love it with this drink.
I literally feel like I'm on vacation right now.
You should. That was the goal. Like I said, this is a super heavy topic. So I'm like, let's start off fun. Start off fun with the cocktail. But it's really different. Again, you always see things in a pineapple cup or just a standard cup. So I love papaya. It's a fruit that's an acquired taste. It's like melon, but it really is an acquired taste. But this is really good. It's fruity. It's fun. It's cool to look at. And this was something I was excited about making. So we'll take a little sip and come around.
Yeah. So maybe use the Uncle Nea's 1856 in this drink. So the 1856 is a blend of 8 to 14-year-old barrels, and they're bottled at 100 proof. It's really, really nice and complex and smooth. It's beautiful. So I highly recommend replicating this drink.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
And so this, although it tastes good, it's one of those drinks that you got to take your time on because it looks really pretty and you feel like you're somewhere that you're not, and then you'll keep drinking. But this is the first drink. This is called the Welcome Home. So that is our first half. And before we get started, before you throw those slides back up, Lauren, any questions or comments about the first part before I come back around here?
None so far. Folks, yeah, if you have questions throughout this, please feel free to put them in the chat and we will get them answered for you.
I've seen a few, but most of the ones that I've seen are just like, wow, whoa.
Yeah, yeah, people are loving
Like
it.
everybody's taking it in.
I'm thinking about how
All
many ingredients I have in my house right now.
right, so I'm ready when you are. Let's take it away and talk a little bit more about Mr. Near.
All right.
All right, so this portion is going to be about the Jack Daniels and Nathan Green connection. Let's see if I can read this with this little eyes here. So Jack Daniel, we know him as Jack Daniel, but he was actually born Jasper Newton Daniel. And his date, again, now when we get to this section, we have a lot more information about Jack Daniel. Obviously, he's a white man. He's a prominent white man, so we have a lot more records, a lot more detailed account, with hearsay and things that have been passed down by way of his descendants as well. So we have a lot of information on Jack. He was born in 1846, actually September 5th, 1846. Sorry, I didn't put that there. He left home when he was age 6. So Jack Daniel also came from a really big family. Hoping I'm remembering this right. I want to say 10 brothers and sisters. So early on, he felt crowded and sort of just wanted to escape that. He had a stepmom that I don't think he was too partial to. And she actually called him Jackie Boy. This is where we get into his nickname being Jack Daniel. But Jackie Boy is what she called him. And he sort of carried that with him, but he left home really early. And he left to go work on the Daniel Call farm. So Daniel Houston Call was a preacher. He was also someone that was making his own liquor and whiskey at the time. So he left just to work as a farm boy, as a farmhand with him in Lynchburg, Tennessee. Nathan Green was enslaved on Dan Call's farm. So this is where we get to them connecting. Let's see, make sure I got it. Okay, so the way that they connected. We're getting into where it's a bit frustrating. So Dan Call introduced Jack to Uncle Nearest. Nearest was already producing whiskey with Dan Call on Dan Call's farm, but as a slave. So at this time, he wasn't being paid for this. This was just his job. Now there's a funny story about how Dan moved Jack into getting into whiskey. Jack had an interest in it. He saw it and had interest in it, but he was, again, just a farm boy. And so there are stories, I read the book about the legacy of Jack Daniels, and there are stories in there that said something along the lines of, he saved his kids from a rattlesnake and did all these things. And from there, he was like, whatever you want to learn how to do, I'll teach. That's what the book says, but we don't know. But at any rate, he introduced Jack Daniels to Nathan Nearest Green, and he tasked Green with teaching him everything that he knew. At that time, Jack Nearest was already, older than Jack. He was already doing a bunch, and the town already knew him to be one of the greatest whiskey makers. And he had that charcoal method, that sugar maple charcoal method that he was already doing. So that was what he was tasked with teaching Jack Daniels. Next slide, please. So yes, this should have been on the previous slide. So this is why we did, these are the West African countries that I wanted to highlight here, just to show you where that is on the map. But that process was something that was believed to have been taken from West African countries. So he brought that here, and it's something that, is still pretty prominent in how Tennessee whiskey is made today. It's actually what separates Tennessee whiskey, that charcoal filtering method is what separates Tennessee whiskey from other whiskeys. Next slide. So this is just a little bit more about it. So I just listed some more information, everything I just said. Charcoal filtering method is believed to be derived from West Africa. Nathan Green taught this method to a young Jack Daniels. So here's what I do want to say too, which a lot of records show this. Although Green was enslaved at the time, Jack Daniel was known to be, or Jackie Boy, he was known to be what they called a kind soul. And same with Dan Call. So even though he was a slave owner, they were known to be sort of, I guess, the kinder, gentler slave owners, and treating their slaves more like family, and more like just general workers versus mistreating them. This is what has been said, which you can believe, because Jack Daniel, for the most part, kept Nearest and the family with him along the way. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Next slide. So the book that I was mentioning, I got this book when I went down to the distillery, which we'll talk about a little later, and it was a good read. It took some time because it was written in the 60s, 1960s, and it was it was kind of hard to sort through the vocabulary and then the way it was written, but it was pretty good in learning about learn a little bit more about Jack. It made me appreciate him, because again, it can be frustrating researching this, because what you don't want to forget, and when I first started learning about this story, I felt like it was glossed over. The fact that he was a slave, we kind of just said that, and we didn't let that sit and marinate with us. And even though it's great that he, taught Jack Daniel, what I always, remember is, well, it wasn't my choice, and I'm glad that, Jack Daniel kept him with him along the way. But, we tend to forget that this was something that wasn't, done by choice. He was enslaved. But this book really does do a good job of sort of humanizing Jack, which further helps, humanize Green, and get to understand Green a little bit. All right, next slide. All right, so these are some photos actually that I took when I went to the home. I got a chance to visit the Dan Call farm and the home of Jack Daniel, where he was staying on the farm. And these are actually, I don't know if it's too small for you all, but these are actually writings on the wall. So story goes, Jack Daniel used to sort of jot his recipes and other little things on the wall. And so these are like little writings, and it's probably really hard to see on the wall, actually writings from Jack, and they were enclosed in a nice glass case, because we didn't want people to touch it and sort of mess it up. So this was really interesting to see. This was all over the house, definitely in the bedroom. But these are pictures from Jack Daniel's home. Next slide. All right, so cool thing is sorry, phone's dying here, need to get a charger. So once Jack Daniel ended up buying the distillery from Dan Call, he went from being his farmhand to sort of being his partner, and then eventually bought Dan Call's shares to own the distillery itself. And he changed the name to, rename it to match his name, and called it Jack Daniels. But he kept Nathan Green with him the entire time. He asked Green if he would like to come in and be his master distiller, and to which Green said yes. So at this time, Green was a free man. Green was actually being paid for his work and retired wealthy. He actually retired really wealthy. Well, really for that time, they said he had a property estimate of about $450 at that time, wealthy. And even when he retired, the Green family kept working for Jack Daniels. Eventually, Jack moved to bought a new location and moved to a new location, Cave Springs. And Jack Nearest didn't go with him, but 3 of his sons did. So they were really prominent in building up that new location and making sure that it was running through just like it was in the location that they were in. And in this picture, I've seen a lot, really, misconstrued with this picture. This is not Uncle Nearest. This is actually George Green, which was one of Nearest's sons. So in the very middle, that's George Green, and to the right of him, that is Jack Daniels. To the left of him, sorry, left or right? Left. Yeah. So, and this picture it speaks volumes, because at this time, this is unheard of. Like being so close to, just taking a picture with Black people, this was just not a thing. So this picture alone says a lot about, how he felt about just being around them, and how he looked at, his folks like family, and this speaks to, their relationship. So this is a really nice picture. I enjoyed learning a little bit more about this. Next slide. When I was in Tennessee, when I went down for the founders tour for Uncle Nea's, prior to them opening the distillery, I had a chance to go check out the burial place of both Green and Jack Daniel. So Green, unfortunately, we don't know where he's buried. He is somewhere believed to be in Tennessee. He died in 1890, but we actually don't know where he's buried. So there was a memorial built for him at the High View Cemetery, which, I got a chance to take a picture about. It was really exciting. And I'm smiling on a gravesite, but I was just so happy to be there. But we don't know where he's buried. But that memorial is right across the street from Jack Daniel's resting place, and he's in the Lynchburg Cemetery. So they are, really close to each other with where they're buried. And next slide. All right, time for a cocktail. Let's make another, take a little break. All right, move this aside. Any questions so far?
No, you're rocking and rolling, Mama.
Okay.
We're just all in awe of all these facts that you're throwing at us.
Yeah, I see the comments. This is a good thing. I hope you guys are getting some good information.
Do we have the 84 for this cocktail?
84 for this cocktail.
Beautiful.
Sorry, 84. Sorry, 84 is for my last cocktail. I'm going 56 again. I apologize.
Beautiful.
All right. So we cannot talk about Jack Daniels and Lynchburg, Tennessee, and all these things without making some type of Lynchburg lemonade. So the Lynchburg lemonade is the thing that, that's one of Jack's signature drinks. So we are going to make my version of a Lynchburg lemonade, which I was excited to do because I told you guys I'm the owner of a company called Life Gives You Lemon. So I have been fully immersed in lemonade making for the past almost year at this point. So this is my version of it, and mine is going to be sparkly and fun and pretty because that's what I'm into. So I have a sour mix here that I made, lemon and lime, but then I also added some guava and some edible glitter. So this is going to be glittery and fun, and it's still pretty much the straightforward Lynchburg lemonade. The only difference is I've added that glitter component and my guava.
Hey, Mimi, do you mind just letting us know where people can find that lemonade company that you own, if that's something that's just specific to DC or?
Oh, yeah. I would love to go past that. But so right now, DC and Maryland. So my lemonade brand is in a smoothie shop called Fizzy in Camp Springs, Maryland. And I'm in a Caribbean food spot called Jerk at Night in DC on H Street. And I'm working on, moving past that because I've been asked to ship orders and do things like that. But yeah, it's something that I started in the midst of the quarantine, which was really crazy. And, I was doing cocktails and mocktails to go. And it just so happened that the owner of the smoothie shop had a chance to taste my lemonade because he doesn't drink, so he just wanted a mocktail. So he tasted one of my fancy lemonades, probably the guava. And he fell in love with it. And he's like, man, this would be great in my smoothie shop. And I was like, well, this is great. I've never manufactured, lemonade to do on a large scale. But it's been really good. It's been keeping me busy, in the midst of this quarantine because we've been hit hard. This industry was really, really hit hard. Ivy and I were talking about this the other day. So having something to do and staying busy while my main brand, Mix and Mimi, has been sort of slow, it's been great. I'm super thankful for it. So when I decided to do Lynchburg lemonade, I was excited. That's here. And the Instagram for that, if you want it, is Life Gives You Lemon _US, and that's on everything: Facebook, Instagram, Life Gives You Lemon. All right, so let's get some mixing here. And I'm just gonna do a nice fun glass with the handle. This makes me feel like I'm down in Tennessee sipping on some iced tea or some lemonade. So I'm gonna do this glass, use this glass. And I'm gonna do an ounce and a half, once again, of my Mirror 1856. And 3 ounces of my guava simple syrup. Is that glitter? And a half an ounce of an orange liqueur, staying true to the recipe for the most part. Give it a shake. All right. And I'm gonna ice my glass up.
Oh, it looks so good.
Smells good. Not as glittery as I wanted it. I probably should have done that at the end, like I typically do. But that
Well,
is.
you know, you're only about a 30-minute drive from me, so I'll see you in 30 minutes.
Come on over. Come on over. I don't have the kid. We can have a good time. So this is, and I'll bring that closer because I'm probably going to sit this while I'm talking to you guys. So this is my version of the Lynchburg lemonade. Kind of see the glitter in the light, maybe
Okay.
not.
Mimi, do you happen to know what the original Lynchburg lemonade was?
It would have been everything that I did minus the guava and the glitter.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful.
So I didn't do a splash of the Sprite on this because it's already really, really sweet. Some people will also do a splash of a lemon lime soda or lemon or Sprite or something like that. So I didn't do that because it's already sweet and perfect as is.
Yeah,
so
I think we're guava and glitter is way better.
It makes me happy. So that's cocktail number 2.
Beautiful.
All right, let's go to the last half. How are we looking on time? Am I talking too much?
Girl, you're good.
Good. All right. So now I talk a lot and I talk fast, so let's just make sure we are, we're not going over time here. Okay, so Uncle Nea's Legacy is what we're going to close this out with. These are just some pictures that I was able to take again from visiting the home, and it was amazing to actually see some things that I couldn't pull from the internet and things like that. Just pictures of the family over the years. What was really cool was seeing this picture in the very middle. That is cool. I don't know if it's grand. I don't know where we are with the great and the great, but this is relative to Green and Jack Daniels. So Jack Daniels great. I want to say great, and Green's great, I believe, daughters, and they were really, really different. So I saw so many pictures of them together. They were really close, and they were known kind of like in the town of being like the fun bunch. There's a story of them two like walking out of Walmart and stealing, but they weren't stealing, they just forgot to pay or something like that. So they had a really cool story. So the family, the cool thing that I got to see when I went down to visit was that the Daniel family and the Green family they're actually really close. When I visited, I had a chance to eat at a place called Miss Bobo's and got to meet, descendants of Daniels, and there was which we'll talk about in a second, the great granddaughter of Nearest. And it's just in that town there. It's one of those towns where you can tell that they were a bit more progressive than other places. Like when we went to the main area, the main spot in the town, there was one store that had a Confederate flag, and like all the stores around that store hated that store because that's just not, that's not what they do there. So you can tell that area had a different attitude towards race relations, which was really cool. And you could almost feel the energy there. It was a really nice experience. So this is just some of the pictures from there. Next slide, probably more pictures. Yep, so more pictures. This is actually a food license from, oh man, I can't blow it up, but some long time ago. So that was framed and that was really cool to see that. But just more pictures, articles, clippings, with the family together. And that is with the next slide. All right, so just mentioned her, Victoria Edie Butler. So got a chance to meet her. In this picture to the right, she's actually telling me I have nice legs. Just want to throw that out there. So that's why I'm making that face. But she is the great granddaughter of Nathan Green, and she is now the first Black female master blender. So when she came in, she was working for, I believe, the Department of Justice, and she was brought on to actually this batch that we're going to use in a little bit, the 1884. She is who we should thank for that. She is the one who sort of curated that. Fawn's goal, which we'll talk about in a second, the creator of Uncle Nea's, her goal was to include the family in backing this particular spirit. So it was really nice to meet her. Really sweet lady. I really enjoyed being around her and listening to her story and her involvement in it, and it was great. So this is Victoria E. Butler. Next slide. And Vaughn, who I just mentioned, she is the co-owner of Uncle Nea's and Uncle Nea's Whiskey, and also an author and one of the historians who was prominent, who has been prominent in getting the story about Uncle Nea's out. It's a story that, is something that she stumbled upon, I want to say 2016, read an article in the New York Times about it, and then hear about it again. And, from there, it was just like, I want to get this story out. And so she worked with the family. She actually worked with both families, the Daniels family and the Green family, because over time, like I mentioned earlier in this segment, the story has been kind of all over the place. I know for a long time, I remember that there was controversy when this story hit because, it was assumed that, Daniels just sort of wiped the history and, didn't care about Nears and getting the story out. And, there was, we thought that Jack Daniels was lying and taking credit and not paying and all these things. It was just a mess. So she sort of came in and helped bring those two brands together to honor Near's legacy. And the family actually said, one of the things that we want to see is Near's name on a bottle. We want to see him honored in that way. We believe it's only right that he's honored in that way. And that's what she brought into fruition. She also started a foundation that helps, a nonprofit that helps bring in, give scholarships to anybody who was a Nearest descendant. So that's really dope. So she's been really good. And I had a chance to meet her, and that's me in the little corner on the right, being excited. Also said I had nice legs. That was nice to hear. That's fun. So next slide. So this is the distillery. So when I visited, I did the founders tour, and that was sort of an invite only type of deal. And so we went before the distillery was open. So some of this, I didn't get to see it looking this beautiful, but it's 270 acres of land, so big horse riding, arena area in the middle. They're gonna, they have the world's longest bar. They're gonna hold the record for the world's longest bar that they, have on site. I don't know if it's open yet. I know they closed down again, or they closed because for doing tours because of the COVID pandemic. But it is all horses. Yes. She actually has one with, I don't have a picture of it. I should have put it on here. Her pretty white horse that she loves. She talks all about that. But it's a really nice distillery. So I definitely want to go back now that it's been built and open. But it was great. Horse photos, I will send those to you. I know, I should have put them on. Because it was one of the guys. It was a crazy looking photo. All right, next slide. All right, so these are the three bottles that are on the market right now. The 1856, which we've used twice tonight, the 1884, which we'll use next, and 1820, which I believe is only available in the UK. And what cool fact that I learned, I should have put this in here, I apologize. Cool fact that I learned about the bottles and the naming convention. There's actually a reason for all these years, and I hope I get these right. So 20, obviously the year that he was believed to be born, years was believed to be born. 1856, I want, and there's probably more to this, but what I got out of that was the year that Daniel moved to the farm, and Dan Call married his wife. So that year was prominent for that, and there may be more. So I apologize if I don't have everything for that. 84, boy, I forgot what 84 was. 1870, we may see an 1870 because that's one that she mentioned. That was when he was declared a human, I believe. Let me just check my notes. I want to get this right for you guys. Okay, yeah. So 1870 was when he was declared a human by the census. So there's no bottle for that, but don't be surprised if you see a 70, emerge at some point in time. 84 was when the distillery was bought. So yeah, so the years on the bottle, actually mean something. They're not just there for, for lip sake.
Yeah.
All right.
84 also commemorates the final year Nearest is believed to have put his own whiskey into barrels before retiring.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I studied before I came to class, girl.
See, this is why you're here. This is why I need you. All right. Time for a cocktail. And then we're just going to chat a bit. So now I'm going to use the 84 from movie to the side. Now I'm going to use the 84, which I've learned more about. And this is why I like for these things to be dialogue, because I don't know everything. I try to get as much as I could.
No, this is great. Like your research is so extensive. It's amazing. And now it's all consolidated into one place. And having said that, we will share the presentation on our website after this concludes, because we really want to ensure that people have this information and can share it with others because it's important.
I'm missing one thing. Give me 1 second while you talk about that, Lauren.
No worries. I can, entertain the people. Thank you all for joining us for sure. This is the beginning of the event for Fill in the Gaps, or the month for Fill in the Gaps, but we're really excited to have Mimi here and Speak as our partner. So thank you, everyone.
Alrighty, guys. So a couple years ago, I created a drink called the Legacy. Lauren, you may remember this. I did a drink called Legacy for competition we did for DMV Restaurant Week, Black Restaurant Week.
Oh.
And this is going to actually be called the Legacy 2.0. And this was inspired just, by this story alone. I told you guys that, I'm with a brand called Bad Moms Entertainment, and what legacy means to me. And doing this presentation has been really enlightening. Just thinking about, I'm always thinking about it. I'm always doing things to sort of leave my digital footprint now that we have that. Now that we have, all these resources available to us for us to sort of leave our mark. I like that. I like for, my things to be here and you be able to hear, how I felt about something from my mouth, versus hearsay or, little documents and things like that. So legacy means a lot to me, being a mom, having had, parents who tried to leave a legacy. The fact that I'm even here in DC was because my grandma moved up from Salisbury, Maryland. So, it means a lot, so this was inspired by that. So this is my Legacy 2.0 cocktail. Just kicking it up a little bit because we got here. All right, so I'm using 84 for this, guys. And I'm just going to do an ounce of Meniere's 84. And I'm going to do a half ounce of a ginger walnut liqueur. So, and it's actually a bourbon-based liqueur. So this I was excited to do because I wanted to do a ginger drink. So going back to, West African countries and things that are, local to or they're known for things like that. Ginger juice is something that is huge. And I couldn't perfect my ginger juice. So I wanted to do a cocktail that I wanted to do, but I wanted to incorporate ginger. I love ginger. So this is a walnut and ginger liqueur. I'm gonna do a half ounce of that. Bourbon base. All right, and then I just have some cold brew here. And so I'm gonna do a little bit of caffeine in here. And
How
yeah,
much of
I
that
came
cold
up with
brew?
say it again.
How much of that cold brew are you using?
2 ounces. Sorry, 2 ounces. I was actually sipping on this when I came up with with this drink, trying to caffeinate. And cream. I'm gonna do a half ounce of cream. And I'm gonna put this into my pretty little coupe glass here.
We're like cream drinks, me.
Say again?
I said we're like coffee cream combination.
Yeah, one of my really the only way I'll get it is if it's in my coffee is if it's like creamy and made with like a really good creamer, or if it has some alcohol. So this is how I get my caffeine. And take this really good. And a nice coffee head on there. And if you are making this at home, please chill your coupe glass. I did not. It still looks really good.
Ooh.
And I'm just gonna go on top with some chocolate bitters.
So next time we do this, I'm just gonna be the person you hand the drinks to, okay?
Okay, yeah, we should have arranged that. I don't know why we didn't arrange that. And just a little smidge of citrus. I like a little orange.
Ooh.
Orange for mine. And there we go.
Beautiful.
So yeah, we're going to do 3, different cocktails, all relating to the story here. And Lauren, if you can throw that slide back up one more time. Again, sorry to hold you guys so long, but I'll close out with this. So why is the story of Nathan Near's Green important to Black history and the beverage industry? So, this is something, Lauren, we can close out just talking about. I'm curious, to get you all's take on this. For me, like I just said, standing here, legacy. Legacy means the world. Knowing what our contributions have been mean the world. The fact that Tennessee whiskey was completely shaped, almost completely shaped by way of this man's contributions, it's crazy. Oh, Mr. Green. It's really crazy, that this is something that coming into the industry, I had no idea. Had this story not been put out there, I would have been enjoying Tennessee whiskey and just had no idea. So, it's important to know that because it inspires the next generation of, whiskey makers, the next generation of bartenders, the next generation, coming up that, they know that they can do great things. And again, having a little person, I'm just like, I want him to know you're able to do anything that you want to do. So telling these stories and understanding, what we've done, it means the world. So Lauren, I'll kick that back over to you. I just wanted to close with that. Having an understanding of history is so important. It's so important. Black History Month, it needs to continue. Over the years, I've heard stories of, wanting to not have Black History Month. I know at one point in time it was a week, so it's something that, yes, we celebrate every day, but just to take a month time to dedicate to this, it means the world. It means the world. So without getting preachy, I'll end on that.
No,
it means the world. It means work. Like I said, this whole process of doing this, I promise you guys, I thought it was just gonna be I know a little bit about that and just throw that together, but it became, a reflection process for me. And I enjoyed it. So I hope you guys did too. So thank you again to Focus on Health and Speed Rack for putting this on. Great.
Thank you. This was amazing. I'm actually really scared because my class is on Tuesday, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta go after this. What's up with
Yeah, you'll be fine. You have a whole the great thing about this series. Everybody has like a really, important topic. I mean, your topic is, different from this, and you're gonna have so much more information about it. I'm excited to hear because that was supposed to be a topic for me for something else. So I'm excited to tune in for that. And everybody's pitch is gonna be great because this is something that was this is really good. I'm glad you guys did this. I'm glad we're highlighting.
We have a few people saying you need to pitch a Tails seminar, teach at Tails. This would be really great. You should do it. I'm here for it.
I would love to. You know what? You guys are gonna kick me here. Everybody's in the industry. I have not been to Tails. I have yet to make it. This would have been the year. Well, last year would have been the year that I would have tried to go. But I didn't start. And Ivan and I talked about this for those who missed it. I started bartending in 2010, but I really didn't start taking it seriously until I got a mentor. So and that was in 2018. So that's 8 years, and not full time the whole time, but 8 years of bartending, not knowing much of anything. So I'm still learning. I'm a student of the craft. People like you, Lauren, it's been great being connected with you. Ivy, Annette, just watching C-Rack crew, the ladies. I'm a student of the craft. I'm a student of the craft, and I love it.
I love that. No, thank you so much for being a part of this, and this is amazing. We're definitely gonna post this recording on our YouTube channel, so folks who watch this later, hello to you. Thanks for joining us. But yeah, thank you so much for being a part of this. If anyone has questions, definitely throw them in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself and ask. No?
I'm going to hop off mute really quick, and I'm sorry that this is Ivy. I'm sorry that I'm not on camera, but I'm going to a job right now, so I'm in an Uber. But Mimi, thank you so much for kicking this off. It was better than I even anticipated, and I learned so much. And your cocktails looked so amazing, particularly the cream one, because I'm biased. But really, just thank you so much. And we're going to spread this information around, especially your closing remark, I think is very powerful. So thank you for sharing your time and energy as a busy business owner and mother. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ivy.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We have our next Speed Rack Academy next Tuesday featuring me, and I'll be talking about the Colored Mixologist Club, which is the first Black mixologist club based in the DC area here. So what I can't think of a more relevant topic to discuss.
Yeah.
So it'll be
Perfect.
really cool.
I feel like you guys are just building one big Tails panel of all like I'll send you
Fuck the panel, just take over the whole thing.
This would be the most well-attended seminar. I'm like, fantastic. This is so great. Thank you.
Yeah, dope. All right, y'all. I know it's late. You have families and friends to be tending to. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next Tuesday.
Okay, thank you, guys.